stage is set, it was a crisp evening in Los Angeles, and the city was buzzing with excitement. The legendary Sylvester Stallone, known for his iconic roles in Rocky and Rambo, was set to appear on the nightly debate, a high-profile political talk show hosted by the notoriously liberal TV personality, Jonathan Reeves. Reeves was infamous for his aggressive style, often cornering his guests with rapid-fire questions and snarky remarks, particularly when they leaned conservative. The show had made waves for its sharp critiques of American values, and tonight's episode was already being hyped as an explosive one. Stallone wasn't known for getting too political, but in recent years, he had been more vocal about his beliefs, emphasizing patriotism, personal responsibility, and a strong America. Reeves, on the other hand, thrived on ridiculing such viewpoints, and it was clear he was looking to score points by taking down a Hollywood icon in front of millions. As the audience settled in, the show's opening theme blared through the studio. Cameras panned across the excited crowd before landing on Reeves, who sat confidently at his desk, his smirk indicating that he was ready to ambush another guest. "Ladies and gentlemen," Reeves announced, "tonight, we have a very special guest. You know him as an action star, but do we really know what he stands for? Please welcome Sylvester Stallone." The audience erupted in applause as Stallone walked onto the set, dressed in a sharp navy blue suit, his presence commanding respect. He shook hands with Reeves before taking his seat. "So, Sly," Reeves started, "you've played heroes your whole life. You've punched bad guys, saved people, and waved the American flag. But tell me, do you really believe that those old-school values still belong in today's America?" Stallone leaned back, a smirk forming on his face. He knew exactly where this was going. Stallone adjusted his suit, leaned forward, and smirked. "Old-school values, huh?" he said, his gravelly voice carrying a mix of amusement and challenge. "You mean like hard work, discipline, and standing up for what you believe in? Yeah, I think those still have a place in America." Reeves chuckled and leaned on his desk, already sensing an opportunity to push his guest into a corner. "But don't you think that kind of thinking is outdated? The world has changed, Sly. We're in an era of progress. People don't want to be stuck in the past." Stallone raised an eyebrow. "Progress, huh?" He nodded and pretended to think. "You mean the kind of progress where people whine about everything, blame others for their problems, and expect handouts instead of putting in the work?" The audience gasped, and a few chuckles could be heard. Reeves, however, wasn't about to let that slide. "Come on, Stallone," he said, shaking his head. "That's an oversimplification. The reality is that America has evolved. We're about inclusion, equity, and making sure everyone has a fair shot." Stallone folded his arms. "A fair shot," he repeated. "You ever hear the saying, 'Nobody owes you nothing'? You want a fair shot, you work for it. You grind, you hustle. That's how I did it." Reeves smirked. "Oh, so now you're going to tell us that everyone just needs to work harder to be successful?" He leaned forward dramatically. "Let's be honest, Sly. You made it because you got lucky. Hollywood opened doors for you." Stallone's expression changed. His jaw tightened. "Luck?" he repeated. "Let me tell you about luck, pal. You know my story." Reeves nodded smugly. "Sure. You were a struggling actor, right?" Stallone laughed. "Struggling? I was living in a rat-infested apartment. I had $20 to my name. I had to sell my dog, my best friend, because I couldn't afford to feed him. You think I was lucky?" The audience fell silent. Even Reeves seemed momentarily caught off guard. "And you know what I did?" Stallone continued. "I wrote Rocky with my own hands, locked myself in a room for days, poured my heart into it. And when studios wanted the script but not me, I said no. I turned down money I desperately needed because I believed in myself. That ain't luck. That's guts." Reeves forced a laugh. Okay, that's a great story, I'll give you that. But come on, not everyone has that kind of opportunity." Stallone shook his head. "Opportunity? Opportunity doesn't knock, man. You gotta chase it down and make it happen. But today, we got people sitting around, waiting for somebody to hand them their dreams on a silver platter. That ain't how the real world works. The audience broke into applause. Even some of Reeves' regular supporters looked like they were starting to side with Stallone. Reeves, sensing the shift in energy, tried to regain control. All right, but let's talk about something else. You've been pretty vocal about patriotism. Do you think America is really the greatest country in the world? Stallone smirked again. You're damn right it is. Reeves leaned in, sensing an opportunity to trap Stallone. So, you really believe that? He asked, raising an eyebrow. You think America is still the best country in the world despite all the issues? Racism, income inequality, political corruption? Stallone nodded. Yeah, I do. And let me tell you why. The audience went silent, waiting for his response. America ain't perfect, Stallone admitted. No country is. But you ever stop and think about how people risk their lives just to get here? They cross deserts, sail across oceans, sneak in however they can. Nobody's breaking into China, nobody's swimming to North Korea. They're coming here because this is the land of opportunity. You work hard, you make something of yourself. That's what makes America great. Reeves scoffed. That's a very romanticized view. But look around, Sly. We've got problems, racial tensions, a widening gap between the rich and the poor, and a system that favors the powerful. Stallone smirked. You ever been outside the U.S., Reeves? Reeves blinked. Of course. Yeah? You ever lived in a country where the government tells you what you can and can't say? Where you gotta bribe somebody just to get a driver's license? Where cops ain't there to protect you but to shake you down? I've seen it. And let me tell you, I'll take America any day over that. The audience erupted in applause, but Reeves wasn't done. He quickly pivoted. All right, let's talk about something else. Gun control. You've played gun-toting heroes your whole career, and I assume you're one of those Second Amendment guys. Stallone laughed. One of those guys? Yeah, I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe people have a right to defend themselves. Reeves smirked, sensing another opening. But don't you think America has too many guns? We have mass shootings almost every week. Don't you think it's time we start taking away some of these weapons? Stallone's smile faded. He leaned in. Let me ask you something, Reeves. If someone breaks into your house at night, threatens your family, what do you do? Reeves stammered. Well, I'd call the police. Stallone nodded. Okay, and how long does it take for them to get there? Reeves didn't answer. I'll tell you, Stallone continued. 5, 10, 15 minutes. You know what can happen in 15 minutes? A lot. So what do? You gonna reason with the guy? You gonna tell him about social justice? Or do you want to have a way to protect your family right there? Right then, the crowd roared in approval. Reeves, realizing he was losing control of the narrative, tried to recover. But other countries don't have this problem. Look at the UK, Australia. Stallone cut him off. Look at Chicago, look at New York. Strictest gun laws in the country. And guess what? Crime's through the roof. Criminals don't follow gun laws. Reeves. Only law-abiding people do. So when you take away guns, who does that hurt? The guy trying to protect his family. The audience erupted again. Reeves was sweating now. Face it, Stallone said. America's great because of the freedom we got. But you start taking away rights, start telling people they can't protect themselves, can't speak their minds, can't chase their dreams. That's when we stop being America. Reeves had lost control of the debate, but he had one last trick up his sleeve. Well, Stallone, he said, forcing a smile. If you love America so much, why do you think so many celebrities, your peers, disagree with you? Stallone chuckled. Because they live in a bubble. They got their gated mansions, their security teams, and their millions of dollars. They don't live in the real world. They don't know what it's like to be an average American. The audience burst into cheers. Even some of Reeves' staff members looked like they were enjoying the takedown. Reeves adjusted his tie, visibly unsettled by Stallone's overwhelming reception from the crowd. He had expected to dominate this conversation, to make Stallone stumble. Instead, the action star was turning the tables on him. You say celebrities live in a bubble, Reeves said, attempting to regain control. But aren't you a celebrity too, Sly? You're a multimillionaire. You live in Beverly Hills. Are you saying you're different? Stallone grinned. Damn right. I'm different. He leaned forward, locking eyes with Reeves. You know why? Because I earned everything I have. I wasn't born into it. I wasn't handed some Hollywood contract. I fought for every damn opportunity. You see these hands? He held them up. They weren't made for soft living. I did backbreaking jobs. I slept in bus stations. I hustled my way to the top. That's what makes me different from these phonies preaching to the rest of America while sipping champagne at their million-dollar parties. The audience cheered again, and Reeves winced, realizing Stallone was playing directly into the frustrations of everyday Americans who were tired of being lectured by out-of-touch celebrities. All right, Reeves said, forcing a smirk. So, you're saying actors shouldn't speak out on political issues? Stallone shook his head. No, I'm saying they shouldn't be hypocrites. You got Hollywood elites telling people to give up their guns while their bodyguards carry them. You got celebrities crying about climate change while flying private jets to their vacation homes. You got actors lecturing Americans about the struggles of working-class people while living in $30 million mansions. The audience erupted in applause again. Reeves was sweating. I tell you what, Stallone continued. I respect people who practice what they preach, but don't sit in your penthouse and tell a guy working 2 jobs how to live his life. That's what pisses me off about Hollywood. Reeves, desperate now, changed the topic. Well, let's talk about something else then. The country's deeply divided right now. You've got a lot of people who feel like they don't belong, like they're being oppressed. You don't think they have a point? Stallone sighed. Oppressed? Look, man, there are real struggles in life. I get that. But this whole victim mentality that's spreading in America, that's what's really hurting people. We used to be a country of doers, fighters. Now, too many people are looking for excuses instead of solutions. Reeves shook his head. So you don't think systemic oppression exists? Stallone chuckled. You know who's been oppressed? The kid who grows up in a broken home, with no role models, no guidance. The guy working 3 jobs just to make ends meet while politicians waste his tax dollars. The small business owner trying to keep his shop open while big corporations and the government crush him with regulations. That's oppression, man. But you don't hear much about them on your show, do you? The audience roared in agreement. Reeves was out of tricks and he knew it. But he had one last desperate attempt to turn things around. So, Stallone, he said, if you could change one thing about America, what would it be? Stallone leaned back, thinking for a moment before delivering his answer. I'd bring back accountability, he said. I'd remind people that nobody's coming to save them. You want a better life? Go out there and earn it. That's the American way. The studio audience gave Stallone a standing ovation. Reeves sat back in his chair, defeated. He had invited Stallone on, expecting to humiliate him. Instead, he had just witnessed a masterclass in common sense, patriotism, and brutal honesty. The cameras zoomed in on Stallone as he smirked and adjusted his suit. That all you got, Reeves? He asked with a wink. The show cut to commercial, but the internet was already exploding. Clips of the showdown were going viral, with people calling it the greatest takedown of a liberal TV host in history. And as for Stallone, he walked off that stage with the same confidence he had when he stepped into the ring as Rocky Balboa. A fighter, a champion, and a man who just delivered a knockout punch to the hypocrisy of Hollywood and the media. The moment the cameras cut to commercial, the studio was in chaos. The crew scrambled around, whispering into headsets, while Reeves sat frozen at his desk, blinking in disbelief. He had just been destroyed on his own show, by an action movie star, no less. Meanwhile, Stallone stood up, adjusted his suit, and shook hands with some of the staff as if he had just finished a casual conversation. He wasn't rattled. He wasn't sweating. He had seen tougher fights in a boxing ring, or rather on the streets, long before Rocky made him a household name. Backstage, his phone was already blowing up. Text messages, missed calls, social media notifications. It was clear that something huge was happening. Yo, Sly, You broke the internet. One of his assistants chuckled, showing him the trending topics on Twitter. Hashtag Stallone knockout, hashtag Sly dismantles Reeves, hashtag truth hurts. Clips of the debate were everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. People were replaying the moment Stallone asked Reeves what he would do if his family was in danger. Others were sharing his takedown of Hollywood hypocrisy. And even those who weren't usually political were calling it the most refreshing thing they'd heard in years. The reaction was immediate and massive. Fox News ran the headline, Stallone wrecks liberal TV host, shuts down anti-American rhetoric in spectacular fashion. Meanwhile, CNN had a different take. Stallone's outdated views spark controversy in fiery TV clash. Late-night comedians scrambled to spin the narrative, mocking Stallone, but their audiences weren't laughing as hard as usual. The tide was shifting. The people were tired of the usual Hollywood nonsense, and Stallone had just given them a voice. But the biggest shock came from an unexpected source, his fellow celebrities. The Hollywood elite had not taken Stallone's words kindly. Almost immediately, social media was flooded with responses from actors, directors, and industry insiders. Some were predictable. An A-list actor, known for his woke activism, tweeted, "Disappointed but not surprised. We must do better." A feminist talk show host added, "This is why we need to hold Hollywood accountable. This kind of toxic masculinity is outdated." But others were surprising. A few high-profile actors quietly liked clips of the interview. Some even commented anonymously on fan pages, supporting Stallone's points. One former co-star, a respected director, texted him privately, "Man, you said what we've all been thinking. Hollywood needed this wake-up call." Stallone wasn't new to controversy. He had been in the industry long enough to know how it worked. Some doors might close, but others, they were about to blow wide open. Just when things couldn't get crazier, Stallone received an unexpected phone call. The voice on the other end was serious yet respectful. "Mr. Stallone, we'd like to invite you to the White House." The president himself had watched the interview and wanted to meet him. "I just want to shake your hand," the president said. "That was one of the best arguments for American values I've ever heard. And I think the country needs more of that right now." Stallone was stunned. A meeting with the president? After all these years in Hollywood, he had never been this politically involved. But maybe it was time. A week later, Stallone stood at the White House podium, addressing a crowd of journalists and supporters. He wasn't a politician, he wasn't a policy expert. He was just a man who had lived the American dream, and people respected that. "Look, I'm not here to preach," he said. "I'm here to remind people that this country was built by fighters. People who never quit, never made excuses, and never let anyone tell them they couldn't do it." He took a deep breath. "You want a better life? Go earn it. You want respect? Carry yourself with honor. You want success? Work for it. That's how I did it. That's how anybody can do it." The crowd roared. It was official. Stallone had done more than just win a debate. He had started a movement. As he left the stage, a journalist tried to bait him with a final question. "So, Mr. Stallone, what do you say to those who still call you outdated or say your views don't belong in today's world?" Stallone smirked. "I say, keep watching, 'cause I ain't done yet." And with that, he walked off, once again the ultimate underdog, proving the world wrong.